I oppose abortion, but not because I think it's murder. What's up, guys? Acer Thorn here, and this is Purple Politics. Let me start by clearing up some misconceptions that the left and right have about each other's position, since I do feel that a lot of controversy on this issue is due to each side, at least partially, straw-manning the other. From my observations, Democrats see abortion as just a woman's right to decide what happens with her own body. But Republicans don't see it that way. Nobody, not even Republicans, have a problem with a woman having autonomy over her own body, as long as it's just her body and no one else's that is affected by said autonomy. Haircuts, tattoos, hysterectomies, go ahead, be my guest. It's no skin off Republicans' backs as long as it's just your body. Most Republicans oppose abortion primarily because they see it as tantamount to murder. After all, would you advocate a mother being allowed to kill a baby after he was born? Not just putting him up for adoption, but actually killing him just because she doesn't want to take care of the baby? No, of course you wouldn't. No one, not even Democrats, feel that killing babies is okay. Rather, Democrats see abortion as little more than birth control. If you jack off and then splooge directly into the toilet, is that also murder? You're wasting one of the tools used to make a new baby, but it's not a full-fledged baby yet. Do Republicans also want to ban masturbation? The problem here is that there is no universally accepted definition of when life begins. That's the reason why Republicans and Democrats are at an impasse on this issue. Until scientists can universally agree on such a definition, we cannot definitively answer the question of whether a fetus counts as a separate life. Even if scientists try to come up with a scientific definition of what counts as being alive, the other side is almost certain to criticize that definition as being motivated by that scientist's personal political bias, whatever that bias might be. As such, it seems highly unlikely that we will ever get a scientific definition of when life begins in our lifetime that will satisfy both sides. So, because there is no objective standard for this issue, I had to come up with my own reasons for either opposing or supporting abortion, and the standards I came up with ultimately led to me opposing it. The short version is, I am indeed pro-choice, but you know what comes naturally with choice? Consequence. Yes, I'm pro the woman having the right to choose what to do with her own body. But I am also pro her having to live with the consequences of her own actions. One of my biggest pet peeves are those who hold their opponents to standards they don't wish to adhere to themselves. So I find it to be a huge double standard that the pregnant woman should get sole discretion to decide whether or not to get an abortion when it took both a man and a woman to get pregnant in the first place. Bear in mind that, if the woman chooses to go through with the pregnancy, the man spends the next 18 years paying child support for that kid. Sure, the mother also has a lot of responsibilities, but at least she gets a get out of parental responsibilities free card, but the man doesn't. Now, some pro-abortion people might think, well, the man should have thought about that when he was having unprotected extramarital sex. Well, here's the thing. With the sole exception of rape, the woman had that exact same choice. Remember, my problem isn't with the fact that women have autonomy over their pregnancies. It's the fact that the woman gets this choice, but the man doesn't. Further still, Some pro-abortion people may argue that the woman gets this choice because she actually carries the baby until term, whereas the man doesn't. But is that really a very good justification for stripping control away from the man completely? Remember, it's 9 months or 0.75 years of pregnancy followed by 18 years of raising the child. That's 18.75 years total. Of that total 18.75 years of parental responsibility, only 0.75 of those years, or a measly 4% total, has the mother admittedly having slightly more skin in the game, literally, than the father. At best, this may mean that her preference should be given slightly more weight, but I certainly do not agree with the father's feelings being taken out of the discussion entirely. So at that point, there are only 3 ways to remedy this double standard. First, allow either parent the option to choose an abortion, basically giving the father the right to force the mother into an abortion whether she wants one or not, which is absolutely preposterous. Second, require the consent of both parents to get an abortion, meaning that if it was a one-night stand and the woman doesn't know the man's name or how to contact him, she's fucked. The third option is the only one I can think of that's fair to both sides. Allow the man the option of a paper abortion. For those who don't know, that's basically when a man signs away all his rights and responsibilities of being a father, forfeiting the right to see his children or be involved in their lives in any way, shape, or form, but also not being required to pay child support. If you think this means that single mothers would just be left out in the cold, it won't. Because remember, paper abortion is only being entertained because women inevitably have the right to abortion in some states. Consider the country of Sweden. In that country, men can file a paper abortion up to 18 weeks after conception. This is also the deadline that women have to get abortions in that country. This means that if the father files a paper abortion, the woman will have some notice that he's doing it, and will have the opportunity to get an abortion herself if she doesn't think she can do it on her own. Now, whether abortion should be a right in the first place is a completely different debate than the right to a paper abortion. But for better or worse, abortion is allowed in many US states. In fact, I don't think there's even a single state where abortion is outlawed in its entirety. If we are to accept that women have the right to an abortion, I see no good reason why men should not also have the right to a paper abortion, with the same cutoff dates as abortion. Of course, as to the issue of abortion in the first instance, let's also not forget that, except in the case of rape, the woman only got pregnant in the first place because she chose, of her own free will, to have sex. Democrats like to brand themselves pro-choice, and it sounds good on paper, but you know what naturally comes with choice? Consequence. In the case of rape, it wasn't the woman's choice, but if you got pregnant just because you're a slut, then you should have to live with the consequences of your actions. Just like how the father has to spend the next 18 years living with the consequences of his one night of passion and indiscretion, I think it's only fair the woman should have to bear the consequences of her non-rape sexual activity as well. When you look at it from that perspective, you realize that the Democrats aren't really pro-choice so much as they are anti-responsibility. Suddenly, that sounds far less politically marketable, doesn't it? Now, I've mentioned rape a lot in this video, so that inevitably begs the question, should abortion be allowed even then? Well, first of all, we need to understand that rape accounts for a very, very small number of total abortions in the United States. In fact, according to anonymous reports, rape is reported as the primary reason for an abortion in less than 0.5% of all abortion cases. If this statistic were rounded to the nearest percent, like all other reported reasons in this study, it would just round down to 0, which means it could potentially be excluded from the report entirely. Of course, if they did that, liberals would call the study biased and say that it intentionally and maliciously omitted rape from the stats just to push a conservative agenda. So instead, they just report it as less than 0.5%. Instead, the vast majority of primary reasons given for abortion are they just don't want to shoulder the responsibility of motherhood and don't want to accept the consequences of their promiscuous sex. Sorry, not sorry, but I am not moved by such a pitiless excuse, especially when men don't get the same option. Now, that being said, in the already rare event that rape is the main reason for wanting an abortion, should it be allowed? My answer is no, but not for the reasons you're probably thinking. Like I said earlier, I'm on the fence about whether a fetus counts as a life or not. I oppose rape as an exception to abortion, not because it's not the baby's fault, but because if rape is an exception to a ban on abortion, that would only incentivize women to make up allegations of rape so they can get an abortion. False rape accusations are already a serious problem as it is. Men are guilty until proven innocent of rape as soon as a woman accuses him of it. Women can throw down rape accusations at the slightest inconvenience, such as for revenge for a boyfriend having broken up with her, or even just to coerce a man into doing favors for her he doesn't want to do. So no, until we get some serious reforms to rape law that significantly level the playing field and make the law far less misandrist than it currently is, then having rape be an exception to the ban on abortion would only give pregnant women even more of an incentive to falsely accuse the baby daddy of rape. Now, if sufficient reforms to rape law were introduced, and a rapist could no longer be convicted with just the woman's uncorroborated word, would I then be on board with rape being an exception to the ban on abortion? Honestly, I don't know. I can't make a call as to what my hypothetical opinion will be without having the totality of the circumstances in front of me. I can say with confidence that I would be willing to reconsider my position on the issue, but I make no guarantee as to what results that reconsideration will have. So that's my stance on abortion. If I had to pick a side, I would go with being against abortion, which is why the thumbnail for this video has the red bar in the top. But I honestly have vastly different reasons for opposing abortion than most conservatives. If you enjoyed this video, regardless of whether you agree with my opinion or not, be sure to subscribe for more Purple Politics videos. Once you've done that, check out my featured video for returning subscribers for ways you can support the channel through monetary donations on Patreon as well as over at my main channel. In the meantime, however, I am Acer Thorn, and this has been Purple Politics.